agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Prime Time Sunday. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. As you may be aware, there is always a shortage of rice on the Liberian market from as far back as my dad can remember. We know very well rice is our staple food. If we don't eat rice in a day's time, we say, I have not eaten. In my village, they call it kou. Somewhere they call it blah. Another place, they call it the chew. So wherever you come from, there is this thing about rice, and we love to eat rice. The people call it our staple food. But there has been instances where rice is short on the Liberian market, and people are running around. People are desperate to find rice to eat. So this has been going on for a while, and almost every government will try to say where we're going to provide rice, but then we have the shortage. So it's like, okay, what's going on here? Does it mean that the people in this rice business, they are bad? Does it mean that they don't know what they are doing? Does it mean that we are not praying enough? That's why the rice finished? Or what is it? And how can we solve this problem? So tonight I have the honor to welcome Dr. Wooiklee S. Paye. Dr. Paye is a soil scientist. I call it agricultural scientist. He's a scientist. Dr. Paye has been on this show a couple of times to talk about agriculture. Tonight, we want to talk about the chew. Dr. Paye, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you to you and the team over there. And I'm glad to be here again to share my little one-cent knowledge on the issues about rice in Liberia and what is the way forward. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I also want to welcome an agricultural economist, someone who works in the agricultural field right here in the United States. He is Ambulah Mamey. Ambulah also, like me, he eats rice. Ambulah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jai. It's good to be here again. But this time not as a full-time guest, but partnering with you to engage the scientists, and then I can come in with the policy and economics regarding this whole rice issue.
Thank you. Yes, he is right. Dr. Ambulah is going to play a dual role here, has a co-host and also a discussant, so that when Dr. Paye says something that I don't understand, then he can break it down to me. No, that's not his role. Dr. Paye has been very good. Every time I call him, he speaks to my level so that we are all on the same page. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. Today, we are focusing on the issue of rice shortage and what we can do. What are the solutions? What have we tried? Why sometimes most of the things we try, why they didn't work, and what we can do today so that my people in Bannersville and also my people in Jiripo can have rice to eat. Again, we want to welcome our viewers. Let's start, Dr. Paye. There is rice shortage. Is a food shortage. Is it? First of all, let me ask you: do you eat rice?
Every day, at least twice a day. Yeah, I eat rice every day. Rice is the pillar of the Liberian diet. So it's our main source of calories. So we eat rice very substantially. Maybe not as much as other people, rice producing countries in Asia and other parts in the world, but Liberians eat rice very substantially. So yes, I do eat rice, and sometimes I eat it twice, sometimes 3 times a day.
So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to see why is this happening? What are some of the factors that are responsible for which we always have this issue? And we're going to look back, historically from the days of President Tubman up to now. Almost everybody is promising that we're going to eat rice and we'll be full, and sometimes it doesn't happen. So we're going to look at, the causes, what are the factors responsible, and what really it means when we say rice shortage, what have been the ripple effect of that. And with this, let me turn it to my able co-host, Mr. Ambulah.
So sorry, let me just jump into it right away. Basically, what we want to do today is to try to diagnose the problem. You know, to allow Wookie to speak to some of the things we know and some of the things we do not know. So, Wookie, given all that happened, almost every president that came to Liberia promised, addressing this rice issue. We've not been successful years in, years out. Resources spent, millions of dollars in, the returns are not sufficient. Given your experience, especially from the pre-production level, what do you see? How do you see our seed sector, especially the rice seed sector? What are the varieties are we using? Are they addressing the problems for which they are created? I know in other places, different varieties are produced regularly over different period of time to be able to address different agrological challenges. In Liberia, what are the varieties are we using? Are they effective? Are they yielding the potential for which they were generated? So we talk about that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I will try my best to answer that question to the best of my knowledge that I know about the Liberian rice sector. But yeah, so I mean, just before coming to that question, the problem is the thing is like the topic of the show is causes of the repeated rice shortage in Liberia. Why are we always having this repeated rice shortage? That's the topic that we are going to be expanding today. So let me just first answer that part. Why are we having this problem? And the reason is because we are not producing enough locally. That's just it, point blank. There's rice shortage in Liberia because Liberia is not producing enough rice locally. And since we're not producing enough rice locally, we'll always have to import rice to satisfy our demand. Liberia, on average, we consume about 332,000 metric tons of rice yearly. And we only produce, in the country, we only produce about 25% of that, which is about 83,000 metric tons. Now, you need 332,000 metric tons, and you're only producing 82,000 metric tons. So we need to import 75% of the rice that we eat in Liberia annually. So that is the reason why there is always rice shortage on the Liberian market. And actually, that has a very serious impact on the Liberian economy because to import that 332,000 metric ton, we'll have to spend somewhere in the vicinity of 350 to $375 million annually. Now, just look up, for example, what's the national budget of the country is 500 million. and we are sending out 350 to 375 million annually to input rice into the country. So you can see one of the reasons why the country is poor and why we can make progress as a nation because of that problem. So that's the main problem that is there. That's the reason why we're always having that rice shortage because we are not producing enough locally to satisfy our demand, and therefore we have to source it from out of the country. And because of that, we are vulnerable to this global change of economic goods prices, rise, food as a whole, food and energy. We are very vulnerable.
Dr. Paye, before
Yeah.
you continue, because I want that to sink in a little bit, I want to understand it. You are saying we are not producing enough locally. So we are producing, I'm just throwing numbers out there, or as you said, 25%.
Yeah,
And then we have to buy 75% of our rice from
exactly.
outside the country.
Exactly.
And so if the place we buying the rice, even if that water is flying, if the bridge break down, then we can get it.
We can get it.
If we don't have the money, we can get it.
So exactly. So we are extremely vulnerable because we are importing all this rice. So the places where we are importing from, they get problem too. We import a lot of rice from India. We import a lot of rice from Brazil, from China, and these countries they have their own problem. So whenever there is any issue that will affect their supply, it has that trickle down effect on the Liberian market. So it's not like something that's any specific individual in the country is doing. It's just that because we are so dependent on this outside source of rice, so whenever there is any glitch in the international supply, then we have that trickle down effect on the Liberian market. So that's the main issue that is there. That's why we are having a rice shortage on the Liberian market.
Thank
Now,
you, thank you, thank you,
now
Dr. Paye.
okay. So now coming to your question, with regard to the various germplasm of rice in Liberia that we can grow, whether they are productive. I mean, I'm paraphrasing the question. If I paraphrase it wrong, please make sure you
Yeah,
correct
so
me.
basically what I wanted to know is, Liberians are leaving almost everything you're talking about, the international price, how it has an effect, and the dollars we spend on export, they live that every day. What we don't know, or what most people don't know, is the underlying root causes of our inability to produce rice. One of the fundamental problem is pre-production activities, and that's what I came first to the C sector,
Yeah.
the
So
gem
so
pattern. So
so
what are those gem patterns that we are using that you can speak to, and what are the deficiencies in those different varieties, and what we can do to correct them?
thank you. So uh, before the war, Liberia used to host the West African Rice Research WADA.
Water,
Like,
yeah.
Liberia used to host that. So during the time WADA was working in Liberia, they had all type of agriculture scientists in Liberia, from soil scientists to plant breeder, physiologists. Everyone was in Liberia working with the rice. So they developed several varieties that are very acclimatized to the Liberian climate, that are very good to grow in Liberia. One popular variety is the Swakoko 8, and it's called Swakoko because it was developed right there in Swakoko at Cary. This variety is very good. It is iron toxicity tolerant, so it does well in our lowland. Because one problem we have with our lowland in Liberia is high availability of soluble iron, and this can be a very serious problem for rice production. But the Swakoko 8 was bred to be able to withstand that high level of iron in the rice, in the soil, in Liberian soil. So you can have a very decent yield of rice when you grow soy cocoa 8, even in an iron toxic soil. And then we also have the LAC 23, is another very popular variety that is there for lowland rice production. And then we have serious upland varieties that I don't know their name right off here right now, but if you go there, our local people have had this rice variety with them for hundreds of years, if not thousands, and they've been producing, and that's how they have been sustaining themselves through the year. So they are germplasm, Liberia rice germplasm, that are there right now that we can grow and be able to produce some rice. And there have been some effort to save Liberian rice at WADA. I know for sure a friend who used to work with Cary had this project where he was collecting all the Liberian rice germplasm to be able to come up with an improved uh, variety that will be able to withstand both iron toxicity and also produce a very good yield for the Liberian farmers.
Hmm.
So the resources are there.
Yeah, so talking about that, it means because you mentioned the iron content in the soil.
Yeah.
So you were saying anyway, we're going to get to all of this, but you are saying in essence there are some problem with the soil that is making us not to produce a lot of rice.
Yes, yes. Liberian soil, the characteristic, they are low in organic matter. Number one, uh, the pH. Ambulah, you are saying something, but you are muted.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm saying you push Dr. Paye to the next question, and
okay, but then
yeah.
let
So the next
me
question is focused around the soil area, but there's something about the variety I wanted him to stretch on a little bit.
sure,
If we're
sure.
talking about WADA was in Liberia, I think during the war period, and
Before.
before the
Yeah.
war period and up to the war period.
Hmm.
The thing about varieties is most times there is a need to upgrade and update these varieties to meet up with existing new agrological challenges.
I
So
agree.
what new addition or what new upgrade have we made to these varieties? Because the ecological condition at the time those varieties were created may
They
not be the
change.
same today, for
Oh,
which
you.
might impact productivity. So my question to you was, the varieties are old, and I was asking, based on your research and your understanding with information on the ground, what effort have been made to upgrade or update those varieties to meet up to existing new challenges at the agrological level?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there have been serious research effort at the carry. Like I told you, I have friends there that we talk, and there are efforts that have been made to upgrade those varieties. But the thing is, to develop a variety of a crop, it takes long time. You have to do several trials, several multi-locational trial, like you are saying. You have to expose when you develop a new variety, you have to expose it to the different environmental conditions of the place where you're going to be growing it to make sure that they are fit. That's one aspect. Another aspect is you have to make sure that it is palatable. The people that are going to be eating that rice, you got to make sure that they like it. So there are so many different aspects when it comes to releasing a variety of rice, and it takes time. And a country like Liberia, where research is not fully supported and things are not moving fast, even here where everything is supported and the breeders have everything they have, sometimes it takes 10 15 years, so not 20 years before they can even release a variety. Because not only will you just go and breed the crop and bring it out, you have to try it. You got to send it out for people to try it and make sure that it is adaptable on a wide range of environment. And after that, you have to make sure that the consumer, because at the end of the day, it's going to go to people's table. You got to make sure that people like it. You got to make sure that it has those characteristics that make that make it to be a good rice, for example. So there are work going on carry. I don't know to what extent it is happening. I don't know what level of breeding work is going on there, but I know for sure that there are people there who are rice breeders who are doing different trials to see whether this variety that we have, they still are at a potential production potential, or if they need improvement. So that's happening, but I cannot tell you right now that okay, this particular variety is being developed and this what happened, because I don't know. But there are people there who are working on it.
All right, Dr. Paye, and we're going to, before Ambulah come here again, I just want to go back a little bit when you started with the shortage of rice, the causes, right? So
Mhm.
what I want to ask here is, right now we heard that rice shortage on the market. Is it rice shortage? Is it food shortage? Or is it both? Or what's the link between rice shortage and food shortage? What is it that we are having?
Thank you. We are having a rice shortage that is being dragged into food shortage on the Liberian market. That's the main problem that is happening over there. Now, whether this shortage is a natural shortage of rice or it is artificial shortage, I don't know, because I'm not in Liberia. So whether they got people who are importing the rice and holding it, or people who are buying it and just keeping it, I don't know. But what I do know is that in Liberia, it is difficult right now to find rice to buy, because the price of rice have increased just over the last few weeks. The price of rice have increased by almost 20 to 30%, or even more than that. So therefore, we have rice shortage. And then when we have rice shortage, what happens is that can easily transform into food shortage, because rice is the main source of food of calories in Liberia. Liberian people depend on rice a whole lot. And therefore, if they cannot find rice, that's the only time they will turn to other food sources. So because of that, the other food like cassava, edibles, yam, and all of that, they are not being produced at a large quantity, because people do not see, even though there's a huge market for those produce in Liberia, but people do not see that opportunity, because once there is enough rice, the demand for cassava, the demand for gari, for example, a cassava product, is lower, when you have rice on the market. So therefore, when rice is short and people start going for gari shortage can easily pop up because you don't have 10,000 people going for gari on a daily basis. But if there's no rice and then you have 10,000 people going for gari, therefore you have gari shortage. The same way with fufu, the same way with other product of cassava and yam. So, you cannot dissociate rice shortage from food shortage in Liberia, because even though there are other food, but people would rather go for rice if they can afford it or if they can find it. And then if they can't find it, then they will go for rice. So they will go for the other food substances on the Liberian market. So that's the relationship between rice and all the other Liberian food commodities that we have over there. So every time you say rice shortage, it can easily be food shortage on the Liberian market. That's how it looks. And some of the contributing factor to that is because Liberia, like I said, rice is the main thing. Liberian man will eat no matter what he eats. At the end of the day, if he doesn't eat 1 or 2 spoons of rice, he hasn't eaten anything for that day yet. So if Liberian can diversify their food, if we can be able to diversify our food, if we can eat cassava and be fine with it, if we can eat edo and other soup and be fine, edo and palm butter, very good food. If you can eat it and sleep with it, if somebody says there's no rice, but you can find edo to buy, there will be no need for you to jump over the fence or do something crazy, because without rice you can survive on anything. But Liberians are so much accustomed to rice that when there's any problem with the supply of rice, the whole country is panicked.
I know Ambulah or agri-economic thing is kicking in now about demand supply.
Yeah, so the thing is, I agree with him on the part, where he emphasized that there can be increased demand for substitutes to rice or similar substitutes to rice. But another reason why you can find not necessary, technically it's not really food shortage, is that when there's rice shortage, the price of rice increase, sometimes by $10, $15, $20. Poor household would then shift their demand from buying other things, or will shift their resources from buying other things to be able to increase their cup of rice. So for that reason, they will not be able to buy even onion if they needed to buy onion. They will not be able to buy fish if they needed to buy fish, because they want to have more rice. So it's an income issue, it's a price issue. But some of those commodities are existing. You will find the fish, you will find the onion, you will find milk. But the household would prefer to buy more rice at higher price than to buy other commodity, because they need the calorie, they need the energy. But you're right. Rice shortage and food shortage are interrelated.
Yeah, and exactly. And when you say poor household in Liberia, you are talking about 70 to 80% of the population.
Correct.
So you can imagine the demand that you are talking about here, because poor household in Liberia is almost everybody. 70 to 80% of the country is classified as poor.
When I was in Nigeria with my brothers and on the refugee camp, 97, where we are on a daily basis, we want beans. So we cook the beans, and then we want anything. It could be yam, it could be edos, it could be gari, anything that goes with the beans. But there's not so much money, so we had to stop, because the money we're going to take to buy pepper, that's money taken away from our money for beans. So we stopped eating pepper, not by choice, so that we could increase the money we have to pay for rice. So when Ambulah said, well, because you still want the rice, so you're going to leave other things so that you can still afford rice because you want rice. So it's going to make you stop eating fish, and then you end up with something else, which we're not going to go into that, because you still want this rice that you're going to forego something that's going to give you a balanced diet, and that's whole another issue. So let's come back to go ahead, Dr. Paye.
Yeah, and exactly. And because, how long or how many people will want to increase their rice budget and forgo other things? I want to eat rice with soup. I want to be able to eat rice and beans tabagi with my chicken feet in it, with my whatever meat I can buy in it. But if I can't afford those things anymore, and because the rice price is just so high, so everything is happening because of the rice. You understand the relationship there. Because I used to buy $40 chicken feet, for example, but now rice cup have gone from $60 to $80. So therefore, I can buy $40 chicken feet. So the rice is costing that. So
Yeah.
they are very intertwined.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Paye. So we transitioning from varieties, since we already know that there are varieties. I just checked while you were talking. I checked on the Ministry of Agriculture website to just be able to confirm that the release varieties updated for 2022. Swakoko was released in 1981. It tells you how old the
yeah,
variety is. That has not been updated. The
mhm,
other one was released in 1974. That is LAC. LAC was released in 1974.
yeah.
The other one was 2008 and 2007. Basically, what it tells you is we are using old varieties, most likely not updated, to meet up to the current agrological condition the country is associated with. So for that reason itself, scientifically, you can speak more to that. There might be issues with yield because the
I
varieties are
agree. I
old
agree.
and the
That,
agrological conditions are not compatible.
yeah, that alone present a challenge, because if you have this variety that were created 30 years ago, we all learn in school that climate change between every 30 to 35 years. So whenever you have a variety that was developed in a long time and up
Hmm.
to now, it hasn't been updated, there can be a problem with you. But for sure, I know that the Swakoko 8 is a very resilient variety. It does very well on a harsh growing conditions. So that's why it is be around that long.
Okay, thank you. So we know about the varieties. We know they are old. There's a need to update. But let's come to the production system. We, when I say we, I mean you and myself, but most people are aware that the most convenient or the most productive agrological condition to grow rice is in the lowland. It's not in the upland. It's in the lowland. Liberia has a huge stretch of lowland, especially along the southeastern region. Countries and places in the US, I mean, just tiny places, a handful of what we have in terms of lowland are producing 1,000 times more than what we are producing in our swamp. I wanted you to speak to the soil component. I wanted you to speak to the acidity level. I wanted you to speak to why our swamp that we're supposed to use to produce rice are not producing the yield that we are expected to produce.
Sure. So the problem here is in Liberia, we have a very acidic kind of soil, which means the pH is less than 7. In most part of Liberia, the soil pH is 5.5 and below. So that create, an acidic condition in this lowland. And when that happen, you have severe nutrient imbalances in the soil. And because of that, a vast majority of our rice, that we have in the country, we cannot grow them to their full potential because they have all these challenges in the soil. So that was one of the reasons why the variety we were just talking about, the soy cocoa, it was developed so that it can withstand that iron toxicity issue. So, for example, you made a comparison that farmers here they grow rice on very small area, and they produce a lot compared to when we cultivate a big portion of land, we are not producing similar yield. It's because of the differences in input. Farmers here they got access to fertilizer, they got access to machinery. They can be able to cultivate the land very easily without any problem. They can be able. They have the information, scientific information from scientists, from research, telling the people what they need to do. They got soil scientists advising them on how much fertilizer you need to put out there. Your soil pH is this, what you need to do, how much agricultural land you need to put out there to correct your soil pH. Your soil organic matter is going down. What you need to do to increase that organic matter. You are going to plant rice on X day. There's going to be rainfall. There's going to be this problem. There's going to be that problem. They got people telling the farmers here all this information. In Liberia, the farmers are just doing it based on their feelings. You understand? There is this notion that our soil is fertile. Liberian soil, oh, the fertility level in Liberian soil is very high. Anything you put anywhere, it will grow. Well, yes, anything you put anywhere, it will germinate, but it will not grow to its full potential for it to benefit you the way you want it to. So you grow rice on 10 acres and you are only getting like 1 ton, and you say, oh yes, my rice produced, but you are not even getting the full potential of that rice. So people need to have the information that they need to be able to grow rice in this lowland properly. And you are right. Rice is a crop that requires a lot of water to grow. If you grow rice in the upland, the nutrient management for rice you cannot be properly done in the upland because rice requires a lot of nitrogen. Nitrogen is a very volatile substance. When you put it out there in the field, it goes in the atmosphere. But in the rice field, once you put nitrogen and you flood the field, you keep that nitrogen in the flood water long enough for the rice to be able to take it up. So that's the reason why we encourage our people to go down in the lowland to be able to do rice cultivation there. So if you cultivate rice on the upland, your yield will be half or maybe 25% of what you will get in the lowland. So that's the issue with the lowland ecology. We have issue of high iron toxicity, and we need to be able to have people to advise our farmers what they need to do when it comes to the issue of iron toxicity, correcting pH, correcting organic matter in the soil, and all of that, so that it can increase their production in the lowland.
So you're basically talking about agricultural extension, because that is where the next question was trying to pay attention to.
Agricultural research first. We need to make sure there is a strong research program to be able to come up with this information before you can have the extension, because extension is the link between the research and the farmers. So like me, if I figure out something that is wrong in the soil, let's say I go to Liberia and I see they are having issue in the soil, and then I come to the research station, I set up an experiment and do the research and find a solution to it. If I go as an agricultural scientist to the farmer, maybe I might not be able to explain it in a terminology that they can understand. So that's why the extension people are trained specifically for that, to relay this information coming from the research institute to the farmers. So we need a vibrant research to be ongoing first, and then also a vibrant extension service. That's what we need in Liberia. So more support need to be given to agricultural research, not just to the Central Agricultural Research Station, but also to the various universities. You understand? Up to now, we're still sending people to go get, research degree in agriculture out of the country. I mean, you cannot totally eliminate that, but we are supposed to be able to have research programs at the university where professors there will be able to train graduate students who will become research scientists themselves. So not only support the research station, which is Cary, but also the universities, Liberia, the University of Liberia, Cottington University, train these people so that you can support these people to have research programs that they can be able to solve the problems that Liberia have there with the soil, with the rice variety that they have on ground, with post-harvest technology, with transportation, with processing, and all of that. We need all those things along the value chain of rice.
Dr. P, I know you don't like to talk about this, but let me just put this in before we can take something else from you on this issue about why our lowland are not producing what we're supposed to produce. You see, it comes to leadership. This is not your opinion. I know you don't like to talk about it, but what we know about how agricultural research and extension is critical towards addressing our food problem. We have people. The Minister for Agricultural Research and Extension is a college student. These are things that some of us can talk about. I know you don't like to talk about it, but I can talk about it. The lifeblood of improving productivity, which is research and extension, is deposited in the hand of someone who is a university student. How do you expect a robust and transformed agricultural research and extension to be able to address these problems you talk about? So when we talk about when we are technical and talk about more technical issues, we should also be able to speak about leadership issue and decision making, and how those leadership issue and decision making are having negative impact on the entire country. But
definitely, I agree with you. Whoever has the Department of Research and Extension for any agricultural entity should be an agricultural scientist.
Simple.
Dr. Paye, let's talk a little bit more. I know we're talking rice, but let's talk a little bit more about the soil of Liberia. I know you're talking about swamp farming. You call it lowland, and then the highland, and the toxicity level, and the nitrogen level. So when you look at overall the soil in Liberia, you are saying rice grows better in the lowland.
Yes.
All the farm I make in my hometown were all highlands. So
they were all highland, and our people are doing this, and they think that their rice is growing, especially since they are mostly practicing shifting cultivation. When you go back to a piece of land that have rested for a long time, and you are able to produce some good yield, you think that it is good, but really, you could get a lot more in the lowland as compared to when you do upland. So I would encourage people who are doing rice farming in Liberia, if you can find a lowland, go there. Develop that lowland, lay out properly, and then you don't have to go brushing bush, felling trees, and cleaning the farm every year. You can just settle there, do proper land management in that place, and you can do your farming there. And then when you leave the scene, your children will come and continue farming there, and that farm will exist for a very long time. So farming rice in the upland, it is not productive.
But it's easier.
Well, it is easier, but I mean, it depends on what you look at easier. About 80%, 80 to 85% of the farm labor in Liberia every year, it goes towards clearing and preparing land. Every year, our people will get in coup. They go brush the farm, fell the tree, burn it, clear, fence, and all of that. Only about 20 to 15% go in harvesting the rice and storing it. The rest of it is clearing, and that's too much work. And that's the reason why people can't make big farm. People can't make big farm because they have to brush new bush every year. But if you have a large swamp that you develop and you settle there, if you put in all your effort this year and develop that swamp, next year there will be no tree there for you to cut down. You understand? There will be no need for you to bring people to come and clear the farm and all of that. You are just going to be brushing your rice straw and tilling the soil if you need tillage, and then going ahead and planting. So you can cut down that 85% of labor that is going just into land clearing and land preparation. You can cut that down just by doing sedentary farming, by staying in one place.
Dennis, you are coming with a question?
Yeah, no, I mean, what it's blowing my mind because everything starts with knowledge, right? You were talking about extension workers and then the research and all, because we don't know every year as by the time you reach maybe 9 years old, you're supposed to start brushing, and you just go into that cycle what your parents or grandparents did before, and you just waste all that time. And there's one reason why people in the interior, especially my side of the country, they are not making farms anymore, because they were doing this hard work, spending 85% of their time just clearing. Now, when war came and they were not able to make farms, but they were able to still survive on just a little bit, maybe because you can't really tell if you will do the calculation how many bags of rice you were getting from that farm, for which you spend, like 8 months working. So now when they were able to maybe go in the gold mine, get maybe $20 or $50 and buy rice, they're looking at that this is able to take them, good length of time. So it's like, what's the need to farm? So people just start farming and start kind of either call somebody from America or go into the gold mine, get some money, buy rice, and so as you really said,
exactly. And Mr. Jazz, sorry for interrupting, but just what you are saying, I just wanted to get in there, because what you are saying is very important, and those are some of the reasons why we are having shortage of rice on the market. The young people that used to be into agriculture right now, they are especially into rice production. Right now, they are not doing that. Most young people are involved with mining. Some of them working in the rubber industry, tapping rubber, and they are not growing food crops. Like I told you, 75% of our rice is imported. You understand? Most of that rice is going into the counties. There are people In Zuedu, there are people in Zozo. There are people everywhere across the country. I'm calling those towns because those are the ones I can just get off it. But there are people everywhere in the country waiting for rice to come from Monrovia for them to buy.
Yeah.
So that put a lot of pressure on the rice that are in the free port, that is in the free port in the warehouse, because the entire country is waiting for that rice to come. People are not producing enough anymore. Because the young people don't see any future in agriculture, so they try to do whatever they can do and get money because they can easily buy a bag of rice for $14, for $20. So
Yeah,
if I can do
it
more
takes
things,
it takes too long to get
yeah,
that bag of rice from the farm. But,
exactly.
but
It,
like
So
a bit, let me put this question, or it's a question or comment from Armstrong Jabba. He said the highland is the best for growing rice on large scale in Liberia. Tree don't grow overnight on highland. And he continued, lowland rice is also good, but we don't have very large swamps in Liberia. The highland is the best in Liberia if you know what you are doing.
well, when he said the highland is the best to grow rice in Liberia, I disagree with him on
me
that
too.
part. I disagree with him. I met Armstrong. We talked very briefly. I know he's doing a very good job in Liberia. There, his group is involved with this local rice production. But to be able to grow rice sustainably, you have to do it in the lowland because rice require a lot of water. Rice require a lot of water, and proper nutrient management for rice it happens underwater, not in the highland. So growing rice on the highland is just hard time business. You have to grow rice in the lowland. And the reason why he's saying that lowland is hard to find in Liberia is because we don't have the technology, we don't have the equipment and engineering knowledge to develop our lowland. You understand? In Liberia, because people don't have machines, so when they go to do the sunrise, just where the water pass, they just follow the stream along the water, and that's where they find, and that's all they have. But if you stand and look, you will see that the land is flat enough along for acres going both left and right of that stream. So if you have machineries, you can expand that swamp. You understand? Even in China, in India, most of the places where people are growing rice, they are not originally swamp. You understand? They level those places and they send water there to be able to grow rice. So I disagree with him when he said
Yeah,
the upland is the best place to grow rice. That is
just
not
just
true
to
scientifically.
just to add to what Dr. Wookie said, all around the world, Liberia cannot be an exception. All around the world, people are growing rice. The emphasis is on lowland because you can control the nutrients in the lowland, then you can control it on the highland,
Exactly.
especially in places like Liberia where the rainfall is very high, where there is massive rainfall that is leading to the washing away of nutrients from the highland to the lowland. So if you focus on the highland, you might spend more on adding additional nutrients to the soil to be able to produce the rice that you're not able to control. Unlike in the lowland, where if you add nutrients, you can control it. Nutrients management in the lowland is more effective as compared to the highland. The reality is, people tend to see it easier to do on the highland than to do in the lowland. And for sure, developing the swamp, like he said, developing the lowland and setting it up in the way that you're able to produce, right? It requires a lot more technical knowledge than just
Exactly.
flashing the rice on the highland and scraping it with the hoe. So
Yeah.
people try to stay away from developing that technical capability to develop the lowland that you can cultivate maybe 2 or 3 times in the year without
Yes.
needing to fear any tree, and they just want to focus on highland. So that's the science. That's the science. The evidence is robust.
It's
The
there.
science is lowland production, and that part of the problem we face with our people. The evidence is there. They deny the evidence. They stay against the evidence and rely on common knowledge to engage into agricultural production. The story about Liberia have fertile soil. If you check and you conduct comprehensive study of the different soil profile of our country, you realize that we need to do more than just saying Liberia has fertile soil,
Yeah.
right? And it's not only with Liberia, even in Uganda, they wrote in their constitution, they wrote in their constitution, in their national anthem, that they have the best soil, but they are one of the highest importer of fertilizer. But they wrote in the national anthem, so it's common with people to easily reject the evidence and stand on common knowledge. So
Right.
we can move forward to other things.
Let's stay there a little bit because exactly as you said, right? Because we depend on this common knowledge because that's what I met my father doing. So Armstrong is also saying, which from my 6-month agriculture I did on the refugee camp, say this is not true. He's saying the water table is very high on the highland due to 6 months of rainfall. And from what I read, the rainfall even make it worse because it's washing down everything.
Exactly. You're washing the nutrient away. I mean, we're not saying that producing upland rice is bad. We are just saying that nutrient management is difficult, and therefore your yield potential will be lower compared to the lowland.
Lowland, correct.
That is scientifically proven. We're not making this up. This is not Wooklee's idea. This is something that is proven worldwide.
Correct.
Thank you. I'm glad we can go ahead. We talk about the pre, and then the soil.
Yeah. So we can go ahead. We can go ahead. And the next thing I wanted to talk to him about was, mechanization. So all the things we're talking about, the sea, we talk about the soil, we talk about the acidic level, and how in fact it becoming difficult to produce on the lowland because of capacity issue. And I'm sure other people feel that lowland will mean just a swamp, but no. Once you have the lowland, you can develop it into a swamp over time. But then that comes down to mechanization. What role do you see for mechanization in boosting agricultural productivity, and what level of mechanization?
Well, if for Liberia to become sustainable or self-sustainable in food production, we definitely have to move towards mechanization. But that's not going to happen overnight because mechanization comes with a lot of things. It needs a lot of technical expertise and all of that. But yes, for Liberia to become self-sufficient in food production, we can depend on hoes and cutlasses. If hoe and cutlasses were going to produce enough rice to feed Liberia, we would have done that since Turbo tried to increase the price of rice and they killed him because of that. You understand? So mechanization is the way forward, but that has to be done gradually because we need to train people to be. Because, for example, if a farmer has tractor in behind Ganta, for example, and that tractor breaks down, he has to wait for a technician to come from maybe Ganta or Monrovia or somewhere to be able to go in and repair that tractor. So you can't do that and be effective. You understand? So the movement toward mechanization is supposed to happen gradually. What we need to do now is, first of all, get people the Armstrong to understand that we should produce rice in the lowland, cultivate rice in the lowland, and start to move from subsistence farming to sedentary kind of farming and be able to increase our production that way. That's the first thing. The next thing is to start introducing small machinery to our farmers, especially the local farmers. For people who are big farmers that have money that can get tractors and be able to cultivate a large area, fine. They will be the trailblazer. They will be the one to be carrying the message. But for our local Liberian population, most of whom are involved in subsistence farming, we are supposed to gradually introduce them to small machineries first. Make them know how to use it, how to repair it when they need, before we can gradually move toward big machineries. But for sure, for Liberia to be self-sufficient in rice production, we got to make big farms. We got to make farms that when you go stand one place, you need a binocular to be able to look across the farm. We need one farm to be 3,000 hectares, 4,000 hectares, 5,000 hectares to be able to produce enough rice in Liberia that will satisfy the national demand. We cannot do that using hoes and cutlasses. We will need some level of mechanization, but that will happen gradually. It will not happen overnight because it requires, technical expertise to be able to do it successfully.
Dr. Paye, when you say small machinery, what are you talking about?
So, for example, they got machines like power tiller. Like the way our women can go in the coop to go do what they call scratching, which is actually tillage at a very low level. Where you have 20 women to be doing tillage in the daytime to plant rice, a power tiller can do that work in few hours. So we need power tillers. There are small machineries that you can use to clear the bush. Small handheld, motorized machine that you can use to clear the bush, other than having to carry bulldozers, for example. So before we get to that point, we have to use our people. We have to train our people to start moving towards, understanding these small machines, working with them to make that work easier. Because once you can do something easier, you can do more of it. But if you find the work difficult to do, then it will be hard for you to do big farm. That's just a fact. So we need the movement towards mechanization need to happen gradually. It can't happen overnight. And the reason why I say it can happen overnight is because we saw what happened with all the machines that were brought in Liberia in 2008. Today, what happened to it? Probably they have people who knew how to use it, but that big project just went in the air.
And Dr. Paye, talking about, tillage, I just want to show you and my viewers tillage that was going on in my hometown. I like to show that.
Yes, that? that's a power tiller.
Okay. Then what about this one?
Oh yeah, that's the one with us crashing. What are they using? Those are hoes, right?
Yeah.
Are they hoes?
Yeah, those are holes, and they are digging the ground, putting the seeds there.
Yeah.
They were on my uncle's farm in my hometown.
Okay. So let me see how many people over there doing that job. And the way I see that farm size over there, they're probably not going to finish that job in a day. They have to come back another time. But if that farm was laid out properly, and you carry that power tiller that you showed earlier, you carry there, whatever those people doing, with the power tiller, you can be able to do it. One person can be able to do it in a day or two and be just effective, very effective. So those are the kind of technology that we need to start exposing our people to before we start moving towards big machinery. I mean, for people who got money that can afford to buy tractors, bulldozers, and be able to clear big farm area and lay out the places, yes, they can do that. But we need to train our people to gradually transition to some level of mechanization.
I wanted to say something to the DAC, not to disagree, but just to further strengthen this point.
And it's okay to disagree also, because I don't know everything.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm not disagreeing. If it requires disagreement, I would disagree. But I just wanted to say I'm not disagreeing.
Okay.
We need large farms. Like you said, you want to see and stand 500 acres of farm going. But we know that a significant number of the people who producing the food are small farmers.
Exactly.
They don't have the capacity to engage in the large scale production.
Yeah.
But they have the intention to make farms.
Yes.
As part of the agricultural transformation process, we don't step aside the small farmers and pay focus on the large farms. So in as much as we want the large farms, the people with the resources to own large farms, we also want resources to be directed to those smallholder farmers so that they can be able to produce sufficient food. Because the burden of production actually is with the smallholder farmer. The evidence showing that they are even more effective in production than the large farms.
Yes, that's true. And one way you can do it is
right. That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
How do we strengthen, like the people on my uncle's farm? What do we do?
Exactly. So one way you can do it is, number one, by subsidizing their production activity. So instead of subsidizing the importation of rice, we can subsidize the production of rice by giving these people, through research and extension, we can provide these people with improved rice seed. We can tell them that you have to stop farming on the highland and go in the lowland, find a flat area in the lowland where you can be able to lay out and plant rice. We can supply these people with fertilizer. We don't have to give them the money, but we can set up a fertilizer store right somewhere in Zwedru that will say, okay, if you have 5 acres of land, you can go to Zwedru and get 3-4 bags of fertilizer. and then make sure that these things go into the production. And then we can give these people an incentive. We can encourage them by giving an incentive. Okay, you produce 5 ton of rice this year. Next year, if you produce 7 ton, we will give you 1 power tiller. So that you can be able to produce more. We have to be able to what? Create access to finance for these people. Because farming, when you get people to come to your farm to work, you have to buy food for them. So people have to be able to have access to finance where they can be able to borrow money at a low interest rate, do their farming, and pay that money back. So we have to build the capacity of these small farmers, because these are the people, they are the building block. These are the big farmers will be there, they will be like the roof. But the small farmer, they are the blocks that are in the foundation, that are in the wall that are going to hold the agriculture sector. And these are the people that we need to support.
So that is answering your question specifically. You asked, what can we do? These are the things he's outlining, and I will flesh out on a little. That you can continue.
Yeah. So these are what we need to do. We need to help these people to subsidize their production activities through this thing that I just talked about, so that they can be able to improve their level of production.
I want to pick on the area of access to finance. There have been multiple programs in Liberia, and then it comes back now to the same thing I was talking about. Mm-hmm. When we become technical a little bit, there's a time we'll come back to decision making and what people can call politics.
Okay.
There have been different programs intended to address the huge constraint that smallholder farmers face in accessing finance. They cannot go to the bank and take loans. They don't have collateral, and we don't even want to encourage them using their land as collateral.
It's dangerous.
So it's dangerous. So most times in other places, what we encourage countries and other programs we're working with to do is to encourage a government-backed loan, so that the government will provide a subsidized loan that these farmers will access. These programs have been running in Liberia. Unfortunately, let me tell you this. I worked in the bank before leaving to come to the US to go to school. I worked up to the position of manager for commercial banking. The Central Bank of Liberia released a stimulus package for agricultural lending through AfriLand Bank, intended to support smallholder farmers who do not have the means to access financing from the traditional banking sector. That money was disbursed among legislators and people in the executive. I mean, the speaker took his own, opened his farm. Emmanuel Nukwe took his own, opened his farm. The few times I saw Edwin Snow posted about his farm, and I asked him questions. I said, the time you announced your farm was just 2 months after the central bank launched the small loan program for agricultural land for small farmers. 2 months after you announced your farm, he said, "Oh, I took my loan from AfriLand Bank." I said, "But the AfriLand Bank you took your loan from is the AfriLand Bank that the central bank sent the agricultural lending to. I'm not accusing you that you took some of that money, but you need to come clear." So these programs are existing to address smallholder farmers who are actually engaged into food crop production, but it land in the hands of the big sharks and people who are in the executive, and they now only go into cash crop production. They are producing cocoa, they are producing rubber, they are producing coffee. The farmers who are producing the rice, the pepper, the billabong for people to eat and improve their nutrition, they don't have access to these resources. So those are some of the problems.
Exactly.
And those are things we need to keep highlighting as we're talking about how we can address the problem. We cannot just be so technical and scientific about it. We need to speak about what are some of the underlying barriers that are preventing farmers from receiving what they're supposed to receive to boost production.
Exactly. You are right. And like even before the war, Liberia used to have the Agricultural Cooperative Development Bank. This was a bank that used to give farmers money. And the way they used to do that to make sure that it is safe to do is the bank would not give individual farmer money, but they would give cooperative money.
Right.
So that's why they call it the Agricultural Cooperative Development. So as a farmer, to be able to access finance from the bank, you have to access through a cooperative that you are a member of, because it is easier for the member of the cooperative to hold each other accountable as compared to the bank. They have a way that they can deal with each other properly as compared to the way the bank would deal with them. And that bank was very successful. I think the current the current head for the EP at the time. One time he was president for the Agricultural Cooperative Development Bank, and the bank it did very well before the war. But the way the bank collapsed is top government official started going and taking loan from the bank and not paying the bank back. And if you do that, the bank doesn't have money anymore to give to the farmers, and at the end of the day, the farmers have no access to finance. And the banking system in Liberia, the way they give finance, their interest rate that they charge, it's not just fair to farmers. Let's just put it that way, because I always say the return on investment in agriculture usually is not as high as other sectors. So if a farmer take a loan that the interest rate is very high, at the end of the day, he's going to be indebted.
To default, yeah.
Yeah, and when you talk the thing, they say government cannot do everything. But look at a big country that India that got 1.3, 1.4 billion people. They still subsidize their farmers by giving them fertilizers, and that's how India is able to produce so much rice. So institutions have to be set up where a farmer can be able to go and say, I want fertilizer, and get it. I'm growing rice, I need fertilizer. I'm growing rice, I need herbicides, I need insecticides, I need hoes and shovels to be able to lay up my swamp. There has to be institutions set up where people can go and get this thing to be able to do it.
So instead of subsidizing the importation of rice, we should subsidize the production of rice
in the country.
Thank you.
I mean, recently I heard $11 million was in the budget to subsidize importation. Importation of rice? Are you kidding? Whether it's money that was given directly to importer, or whether it was forgiveness of import tariff and all of that, that's just money that the country is losing.
Right.
That money should have been given to the farmers through subsidy, fertilizer, improved seed, herbicide, farming implements, so that they can improve their local production within the country.
Right. I remember when my mom used to get the rice to plant, because the last rice they get from upstairs, you have to put it in a bucket and put water on it so that the one doesn't have, it will float. Because if you don't do that and you put all on the ground, you may not have the proper use. So I'm just beginning to imagine, as you talk about these extension workers and then the advice to these farmers, if someone can help them to prepare their seeds, the yield will be way better. Because if my mom could do that simple technology to just take out the unproductive seeds, I know with education they can do that. But my question
what she was doing is very scientific. That's germination testing.
Exactly.
So first of all, she's trying to make sure that the seed that she's going to put out there to grow, they are viable. And one way you test it is to put them in water. If the seed floats, it's likely that seed, especially rice seed, if it floats, it's likely that it is not viable. So you want to get rid of those seeds that will not germinate before you that way you increase the germination percentage when you put your rice out there in the farm. So it is very science-based. Maybe she didn't know she was doing science, but that's science.
Yeah, but that's where education started from, right?
Yeah.
And Dr. Paye, that help, you talk about the farm implement, all that, it doesn't end there. Because the farmers must, unless they are just doing it to feed themselves, but if they should sell it, they should be able to get it to the market. Or it should be ways to preserve it so that it doesn't get rotten, right? So
yes,
what else can be done in that direction for storage and then to extend the shelf life of the crop?
Yeah, so that's the next thing that we need to do. So now when we increase production and we have enough of it, the next thing is we're supposed to be able to preserve it. We're supposed to be able to transport it to where it is needed. We're supposed to be able to process it. And that's one thing that Liberia is also challenged with. There are very limited amount of feeder roads, farm to market roads. I mean, just during the rainy season, when you see pictures coming from the counties, the road to go to Zwedru, the road to go to Vonjima, the roads are bad. That's just what I'm trying to say. So when people farm, they are supposed to be able to bring their excess to the market to sell. So they need to have these farm to market roads that they will be able to transport their goods to where it is needed. And then the next thing is post-harvest technology. People need to train people to be able to take care of rice when you get it from the field. Because agriculture produce, for that matter, Once you take them out of the field, their shelf life start to go down. They start to depreciate. And if you cannot process them quickly and adequately and be able to store them, you are going to lose them. When I was there in Liberia, just a day survey, I have a friend who came, and then he told me he came from the state here, and then he told me, let's just go to the Gorbachev market and see what's happening there. And we went there. At that time, it's during the dry season when everybody's bringing their bitter ball, they're bringing pepper, bringing cabbage, and everything. You understand? And when the people bring this thing, they just pack it in the warehouse. The warehouse is not air cooled. It's not temperature controlled. Nothing. So they have only a very short window, maybe 3 to 4 days to sell everything. After that, everything started to depreciate. And just by asking the market women on Gorbachev field, we found out that about 40% of the produce that go to Gorbachev field go to waste, because the time that they're supposed to stay, their shelf life cannot be prolonged because there is no proper storage facility. So if you carry cabbage and the cabbage spend 4-5 days with the market woman and nobody buys it, that cabbage end up in the dump site. So the bitter ball, so the pepper, so everything. So we need to have proper storage facility, and the way we can do that is to make sure there's energy in the country. If you're running a warehouse that you have to have temperature control, you're going to need electricity. You not just need electricity, but affordable electricity, because there are people running generators that they can give you current to be able to cool your goods, but can you afford it? Because at the end of the day, if the price of the energy is so high, then that will reflect also in the price of the good, and people cannot buy it. So those things need to be put in place for all these agriculture thing we are talking about, for it to really take shape in Liberia. So it's not just about production. Production is the primary part of it, because you have to have it first before you process it, before you store it. But as we are producing, we should also be putting things in place for all this processing, value addition, and method, transportation, and storage, and all of that. We need to be able to do that.
Well, we're going to take a short break, but before that, Dr. Paye, and after our break, we want to bring in our comments, and we have people calling in to ask questions, comments. We're going to do that too. But there is this thing that let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's say for any reason we are not able to grow rice. Can we grow something else, or do we have to actually grow what we eat?
Well, we don't necessarily have to grow what we eat. There are other people who don't grow what they eat, but they have other means by which they can raise money to be able to buy what they eat. You understand? So we don't necessarily have to grow rice to be able to eat rice. But then if you are not growing rice, you have to be doing something that will bring you money so that you can use that money to buy rice. So there are a lot of other things in Liberia that we can grow: rubber, cocoa, oil palm. The Liberian environment is very good for those crops that I just named, beans, corn, and all of that. We can grow those, oranges, pineapple, banana, and there are market for those crops everywhere. If you grow enough good quality banana in Liberia, Europe is right up there. You can get to Europe before a farmer from South America, from Liberia. If I put my banana on the ship and the farmer from South America put his banana on the ship, my banana will reach Europe before the farmer from South America.
I said 2 days before.
so the market is right there. We just need to do this, But since rice is the main thing, and thankfully we have the climate there that we can grow rice, we definitely need to encourage local rice production so that we can stabilize the whole rice problem in the country. Or else we're going to be having a problem all the time. We talked about this before. We're going to come back here and talk about it again another time if these things we are saying are not put in place.
Ambulah, I have a question. You have a question, then we can go to break.
Yeah, we can go to break and come back.
All right, let's do that. Welcome back to Focus on Liberia. We are discussing agriculture or the production of rice in our country. What are the causes of the repeated rice shortage in Liberia? What can we do about it? What are some other countries doing that we are not doing? What is it that we are doing right? Somebody told me, say, maybe we are not praying enough. Nothing against prayer. Or maybe we are not training. So what is it? So that's what we are discussing. And Dr. Wooiklee S. Paye, the agricultural scientist, is our guest tonight. And I have Mr. Ambulah Mamey, agricultural economist, who is here serving as the link between Dr. Paye and me. The last thing we heard before going to break is we can grow something else and buy the rice. But since rice is the staple, let's do our best to grow rice so that we can eat. Let me bring in few comments here, and then we have one caller on the line just for the sake of it. Let me take the caller first, since people are paying money to call. So the caller here is Melicent Yadolo. Melicent, you are live. Question or comment, sir?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dennis. I just want to commend Dr. Paye and Abdullah for the discussion. What I want to add up here is that, because I first heard that they said this condition has been happening in Liberia, president after president. I want to differ with that. In 1979, under the administration of President Tobo invested into agriculture, where you see waiting in Nima country along the Senegal highway. The Chinese people open out rice farm there and lay all the place. They were doing mechanized farming there. It is still there today. I think what the people are lacking there is the equipment, the power tiller, tractor, and other things. Then, through the same President Tobo, he signed a technical cooperation with Germany, and Germany launched 3 projects into 3 countries in Liberia: Nima County, Bon County, and Lufa County. One in Nima County was initially called Nima County Agricultural Development Project, NCADP. You got DCADP, Bon County Agricultural Development Project in Bon. You got LCADP in Lufa. And these 3 countries, they started producing rice on a large scale. Just as the data said, you need technicians who are like extension workers. All those BWR graduates who did agriculture were largely employed. 3 countries, they were on motorbike. In Nima County, I could remember there were cooperation in every class. Every class had technician, agricultural technician were NCADP.
So Melicent, Melicent, what happened to all the rice? What happened?
Because the civil war came and destroyed everything, and the German corporation, everything broke down.
Right, but before the civil war, there was still rice. Before the civil war, there was still shortage of rice on the market. Don't tell me that you alone are living in Liberia.
No,
man.
the next in Nima County, there were LPNC, in Ganta. They buy all the red.
What's about what?
The red and milled it.
Yeah, what's about?
Ganta and buy red from LPNC without going to Monrovia to bring Chinese rice.
What's about Cape Mount? There were rice there too.
Well, I got no knowledge
all right,
about that region. I know, but 3 regions that were produced on a large scale.
Thank you.
They had to go to Freeport or Monrovia to order rice truck to bring it to their country.
Thank you.
Bon, Nimba, and Lufa. That's why the 3 countries were referred to as the bread and butter basket of Liberia.
Thank you.
It's not happening now.
Thank you. Even
the data talk about the agricultural cooperative bank. We have one in Ghana.
Right.
We were giving money to farmers.
We know that. We know that we're still not self-sufficient. This problem continues. So let me go to the next caller. Thank you so much. The next caller here is 508 area code. Your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, Danny, thank you for taking my call. My name is Darling Wawu. I'm calling from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Oh, Darling, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I want to say thank you to Dr. Paye in studio and Mamey. I think basically what has been an obstacle to anything to flourish in Liberia is corruption. Corruption number one, corruption number last. Because if you look at the issue of rice in Liberia, we have the soil, we have the climate, and I think we have the scientists who are able to walk us through and manage rice production in Liberia. But because of corruption, these things are not going to work. I think, for example, doing Lowland General Administration, he and his family were the highest importer of rice on the Liberia market. Okay? And when Doe came, he too started benefiting from the rice importers. Rice importers gave these people brown envelopes from William Aratomo, who was importing rice and selling to the Liberian people at any amount, to Sammy Doe, who benefited from brown envelopes from the Lebanese Indian merchants, to Charles Taylor, to Judy Bryan, to Ellen Johnson Salif, and now George Weah. The only problem we have in Liberia is corruption. There's only one problem in Liberia. We don't have too many problems.
Darren, you think it's that simple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why it is simple for Smarto to tell John we are here, they play his, I think 2 or 3 acres of land he got opposite Baptist when before he became president, after was a soccer pitch. Today, that place has turned to a city. If you can easily do that, you can easily build rice farm in Liberia.
Thank you.
So our only problem is corruption. Corruption is the only problem. These guys are benefiting heavily from these rice importers, and so they will not invest a dime in rice production in Liberia. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Mr. Aliyu Kamara from Lofa County. Let me see if you are making farm too. Aliyu, you are live.
Yeah. Before I just want to thank you for bringing these two fellows on. We've been learning a whole lot. You know, I was involved in farm business. I grew up in the village, so of course we should get a farmer back in the morning to go do our thing. But there is, just so you know, you see the Brothers Institute have alluded again, and these are neutral people. They've alluded to what Joseph Parker record shows.
Oh, God.
Look,
Please don't bring up Parker to here, man.
If he was just FPMC and he was able to provide food for 3 countries at least, okay? Imagine if he was president, the whole country, but anyway, you already see for yourself, you heard for yourself, the man is the man, and he's the only one who was proven among everybody in the race. But look, to my Brothers Institute, you talk about a lowland, right? And I learned a lot about that lowland thing right now, because when we go in the farm there, we made a swamp, shit, you just brush it, you let it get dry, you burn it, you go, you clean the place, take all the yingling, and you scratch the rest. And so, but my question to you then is, the Oman used to have specific rice. They used to call it a swamp rice. In Paye, we call it busy. So they used to have the swamp rice, and not every type of rice seed that they will plant in the swamp compared to the ones that they will plant on the highland. How can you distinguish that kind of rice to us today? Because you haven't really specified the type of seed that goes into the different types of lands. You're only talking about producing a high quantity. Again, I'll get my answer off the line, and to tell you the truth, I've really learned a lot from you guys tonight. Thank you so much.
Aliyu, they have the Swakoko 8 and the LAC 23. Those are 2 varieties that we did in Liberia. But thank you so much. Let me go back to...
When you're speaking in English, yes, a variety, then you kill some no, you gotta say red seed.
Oh, okay. Let me... Thank you.
Rice seed is generally what people plant, but variety is the different kind of rice that people grow. So when we talk about variety, they have the upland variety and the lowland variety. And we talk about LAC 23 and Swakoko 8 as 2 prominent lowland rice variety in Liberia. So that's just what we mean. We're just talking about a different kind of rice. Nothing big there.
Thank you. And you can speak more about the other colors if you...
Yeah. So I'm familiar with what the other colors spoke about in Nimba. When William V.S. Totman, open to policy, focus heavily on the extractive sector. Eventually, when the prices of those commodities started to fall, he decided to focus now on agriculture and started to invest in agriculture, tobacco and fallow. there were different interventions. One with the Taiwanese, they brought Taiwanese in the country. Ghana, Nema was a part, the southeastern region. Most of those projects, you can say they were successful, but when you look at the records, most of the projects were not successful. They were cost prohibitive. They were costing the government a whole lot than what the government were getting in return from those investments. They had a company called Agremico. Agremico were responsible for the agricultural technology, the tractors and stuff like that to be able to help the farmers. The Taiwanese came with the technical expertise. Agremico went and bought old equipments. Some of the equipments, after working 2-3 months, they collapsed. The process of maintaining and repairing it became difficult. The farmer morale depreciated. When the Taiwanese came, because of English barrier, they started to work on their own rather than working with the farmer, because the farmer could not understand and they were speaking Taiwanese and they could not speak, the English well. For that reason, the knowledge that they intended to have transferred to the farmers so that when they go, the farmer can be able to operate over time. The farmer could not do it. The farmer left because of language barriers. So we have assessed those projects. We have assessed government intervention into rice production from the 1950s, from Turbo era, from Todman era to Turbo era. We realized that most of the government intervention were cost prohibitive on government. The returns were low, and that's how we decided now to say, let government step aside a little bit, provide policy direction, provide some incentives so that the smallholder farmer themselves, through some of the things that are outlined in terms of providing them seeds, providing them subsidies for fertilizer, can be able to produce their farms on themselves. So we know about those programs. They were not successful.
Right.
The cost of operating the program was very prohibitive on government, and the returns were low.
Thank you. Let me bring in Mr. Armstrong Jabba. Armstrong, you are live. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Jai, how you doing, brother?
Oh, it's well, brother. How are you?
Thank God. That's it. I just want to say that I agree with everything you are saying there. Everything you're saying is right. What I'm saying here is that our people back home don't know that the upland that is flat can be turned to lowland. You can irrigate the land, and then you can be able to grow more food. They don't know that. So that's what I was trying to say. I just want to make that correction. I agree with everything you're saying.
Oh, thank you, Armstrong. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, people don't know, and that's the reason why they need people like us to be telling them all the time. And thank you for coming and clearing that.
Thank you, Armstrong, and thank you for the work you are doing. Let's get to let's read more. Let's read some comments here. Seku said, "Thank you, caller. Leadership is the problem. Look what Captain Sakara did in 4 years." Mamey Esther Tapi Moore, it is about time that our government invests in rice production since it is our major food. Blamo Nelson, I would like to establish contact with the guest. My email is blamodnelson116@gmail.com. Ambassador Blamo. Indeed. Okay, Ambassador Blamo, his name very familiar. Thank you very much. Definitely, we're going to get in touch with you. This is Emmanuel K. Seaton. Hey, guys, I'm eating my cassava from the land of sunshine and happiness, Harper City, Maryland County. Vivian want to talk Palava here now. Vivian, say, Dennis, please don't mention that lazy county called Cape Man where you can. Hey, man, Vivian. Cape Man people are not lazy, and there is a science about that. They are not lazy. What happened? The Cape Man people like to look good. So when the people see them sitting in front of their houses looking good, they say, oh, the people can go and they find they are lazy. But no, they are not lazy. Valencia said, why can't our government do a barter exchange with Sierra Leone to acquire rice? Barter system. Jerome Gilman said, how do we logically diversify our diet? Has other countries dealt with this? And that's a question I wanted to ask to Dr. Paye. With all the things that we are saying, what are other countries doing? Countries around us, what are they doing to solve their own problem? Or are they like us too, living on rice and looking for rice and they can't get it?
Interestingly, In the sub-region, I was looking just before we came on. Liberia actually has the cheapest rice on the market in the sub-region. You know, the average 25 kg bag of rice in the Ivory Coast, in Nigeria, in Guinea, is about $3 to $5 more than it is on the Liberian market. So rice is actually expensive in other countries in the sub-region than it is in Liberia. But those people, they eat different things. In Ghana, the people eat plantain, they eat other things in addition to rice. So if they got rice, fine. If they don't have rice, they will eat the other thing and be fine.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, people eat their eba, yam, and all of that. But like I
Mhm.
said, the problem in Liberia is if we don't eat rice, we haven't eaten anything, no matter what we eat. So that's the problem. There are a whole lot of other things in Liberia that you can eat. Uh, Cassava is there. GP with good soup, man, you should be good. But if you don't eat a couple of spoons of rice after that, you know you are not satisfied. And when somebody is not satisfied, then they tend to to create a situation for people to know about their dissatisfaction, and that's the reason why we always have problem with rice in Liberia. But there are a whole lot of other things in Liberia that people can eat.
Right.
Let me
And,
let me
and
let me
like,
let me
mhm.
yeah, go ahead, Dennis. I wanted to
No, I
come
said
in.
in Ghana, like in Liberia, we don't turn things around. Maybe processing, right? Besides cassava, that we from cassava we get the fufu, we get the dumbo, we get the dipper, and that. But when it comes to other things like planting, either we roast it, we boil it, or we fry it. Like in Ghana, the corn alone, they are able to get kenge from it. They have bangkong, the dokun, cocoa. So they are able to turn things, abricos on top of, besides that, they got jacket. So they are able to process and turn a lot of things around. It's in panda yam in Nigeria, but in Liberia, besides boiling the yam to eat it before that time, I'm talking pre-war time. I don't know what else we can do with it. So maybe if we could process these things and do different things, even from the beans in Nigeria, they face something called it sounds like kinke, but it's like actually you make bread or like a rice bread out of the beans. And so
Yeah,
all these variety really make them a little more palatable, and these and other people find pleasure in eating some of these things. So I
yeah.
believe if we can process a little bit more and change the form, we may be able to diversify our diet. Mami.
Yeah, but diversifying your diet with something that is still being underproduced. So we're
Yeah.
talking about production quantity. Not that it's there in huge quantity and it's being wasted, even though I know there's a serious issue with food waste because of processing and shelf life. But we're still having problem with the production system.
Producing it.
Until we can address the production system and produce sufficient enough to meet our needs, then we can create the argument about diversifying the type of different food, diversifying the way we produce the food. I wanted to come in a little bit about the nutritional component. You see, my agriculture is focused more on food and nutrition. We do not just eat because we need calorie in the body. So to suggest, I know it's good to say eat different things. We need to diversify the diet, both macro and micronutrients. You need to eat them fruits and vegetables. But when people tend to make suggestions, hey, if you can't eat rice, then eat something else. The attempt to shift the dietary pattern of a country of group of people who've been eating rice for over 50 years of their life, to shift their dietary pattern, you will cause nutritional problem for them. That's one. So you want to pay keen attention to that. Talking about some of the other food you eat and the quality of the food, like the pananyam, like some of those food have high glycemic index. Those high glycemic index are leading to hypertension, are leading to, food related non-communicable diseases that you don't just push on people to eat because you're not able to produce rice. So don't just tell somebody to eat something because you can't produce, right? Because the glycemic index associated with some other food are responsible for the diabetes you see and other food-related non-communicable diseases. We can produce rice. We should focus on how to address the underlying root causes, like the dihalite, from the agrological standpoint. The soil issue, we need to pay keen attention to solving it. And I will ask him question about what his view on developing a comprehensive soil map for Liberia so that I can inform the use of nutrients. People just buy fertilizer and apply it to the soil without knowing the nutrient deficiency for which they are applying the fertilizer. So let's focus on how we can address the problem of producing rice.
I agree. We have to solve the problem other than moving away from it, because it will always be there. And like you said, rice have been the food for Liberian people over the years. So to tell the Liberian populace to move away from eating rice under normal circumstances, it will be difficult. Yes, during the war, people there will buck away because bullets were flying, and that's the only thing they could do. But under these normal circumstances, to ask people to move away from rice is going to be really difficult. And it is a problem that we can solve. We can grow rice in Liberia.
Exactly.
So why can't we go ahead and do it? You know, instead of subsidizing rice importation, let us subsidize rice production in Liberia. We can
And
do it.
there are ways to do it. Even the fertilizer subsidy, you are asking what other countries doing. Go to Ethiopia. What Ethiopia did when they realized, and even Rwanda, when they realized that the foundation of addressing poverty in their country was tied to agriculture and increasing productivity of the smallholder farmers, they adapted and designed an agriculture subsidy program. Before doing that, they did a comprehensive assessment of their soil, established the nutrients need, and then build relationship with fertilizer producing company. The government will import the fertilizer at lower cost and transfer it to farmers on through different mechanisms. Instead of giving direct fertilizer to the farmers, they will allow importers to buy it, and then they give the farmers like check, and the farmer use the check to go and get it. So there are different models that people use in Ghana, have used it before. It has been successful. We can call it the smart subsidy, SMART. So we call it the smart subsidies. We use it in Ghana, we use it in Rwanda, we use it in Ethiopia. Liberia approach to fertilizer subsidy, few people, get the president to sign executive order. They bring in the fertilizer, the agriculture minister put it on one pickup, she go to a few villages, divide it and come back. That's not the approach. It's not working. You need to design a comprehensive program and link it to the private sector actors who are providing fertilizer and give these people coupons to go and receive it under the smart subsidy approach. One good thing about us is that we are late comers. So because we are late, we have the opportunity of seeing what other people have done, learn from their mistakes, and make it correct for ourselves. Unfortunately, the courage, the commitment to doing these things are not there, even though we say it. The government promised agriculture bank. We wrote it in the PAPD. It's written there. It's been going to 6 years now. One effort have not been taken to address how farmers will access finance through the agriculture bank we promise. And even if they did it through commercial banks, the representatives, the senators, the people in the executive go and take the money.
Let's get a few more comments here. Darling, what we say, if government subsidize rice production, they are creating jobs. Edward Clark Brewer, plant what you consume and consume what you eat, or what you plant, is a very good concept in agriculture for Liberian to adapt. It is called paradigm shift. It focused us on our taste and preference. Ambassador Blambo Nelson, to produce, I understand that there are 80 intervention support services that a farmer who wants to do contact farming needs. Livingstone said Liberia does not have processed machine. And Vivian still behind the Cape Man people. He said during the war, those lazy vermin will go to the waterside, scrub their feet, come and sit under the palaver hall the whole day awaiting 5 p.m. BBC News, while their wives are on the farm. Oh my God, I wish I had the right. Vivian, you got to stop. Cape Man people not lazy. Double Jala say the roads are factor to farming, and all right. So those are the few comments. I got one last caller here, and this caller here, no politics here, oh my man. Let's talk how we can grow rice. Tell Lion Yankun you are live. You have 48 seconds, sir.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, no, we're talking about our staple food. It's not about, but anyway, the staple food, people use it for politics. But I'm only here to advise, to create, have share ideas. Important things. Some of the brothers in the studios, discussing about rice. It is incumbent on our part as Liberians, since we know to ourselves that without rice, we eat the rest of the food, but if we don't eat rice, we don't feel satisfied. So, we should spend more time on creating a robust production of rice activities in the country, because as the food that we know we will not eat this food, we don't feel satisfied. So that all what Liberian people are discussing, what opposition. Anyway, my name is Teddy Lion Yankun. Well, I'm a supporter of the president and the party. I'm a strong sedition. Well, this discussion is a unanimous discussion of every Liberian for us to let our government know that things that we agree on, that we need people from Taiwan, other places to come and help, train our people how to produce rice.
Thank you, Teddy.
General things that we agree on, that we need more subsidies in productivities of rice and agriculture, productions, rather than to just give the money to
importers,
business people to be able to get rich, rather than importing.
Thank you.
I won't agree. We'll have a unanimous agreement. It's not about politics, but maybe just learn on one thing is that one thing we should understand that one of our leaders that really made us to reach to this after 40 years in the government, Joseph Waga. Yeah, when the rest machines that they took to Lofa County, those people, they compromise with politics, because they're certain people know when their rest productions and other things will be robust into Liberia.
Thank you, Teddy. You're taking a lot of time.
For that to not happen, we got to always put this out right. So you don't want people to be dependent on this thing. So
thank you.
Liberian should remember all that. Thank you.
Thank you. I got one last caller, but let me few comments here. This one, Elijah Yomi. Just in 20 minutes, I've learned so much as compared to watching all those political talks on most of our platform. Abby Tyler say, as George Formula says, every problem Liberia has been solved elsewhere. Why do we act as if we need to reinvent the wheels? Use those ideas and tweak it in Liberia. This is not rocket science. Let me, Ambassador Blambo Nelson, please call us. Call the number. We want to hear from you. You can call us on WhatsApp also, 978-726-6965. Let's hear some from you. We'll be happy, to hear from you. You can either call the number on the screen or call our WhatsApp number. Let me bring you Sekou Sharif. Sekou?
Yeah, good evening, Dennis. Sekou Sharif calling from Washington, D.C. How are you?
Great.
I want to say good evening to your panelists as well. I'm going to be very quick. I understand, time is already out. But I wanted to, I know I kept referencing Captain Thomas Sankara in my comment for Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
And I'm referencing that for a reason, right? No disrespect to all the technical aspects of agriculture. And your panelists are well informed. But the problem is the lack of leadership, Dennis. You can design the best programs you want. You can have all the technical knowledge under your belt, Dennis. You can have all, and Ambulah spoke to someone, say, they started some kind of program to go on for all machinery. That's the problem. Design all the program you want. Get all the economists with the great knowledge. If you don't have a leader who's dedicated to this, to seeing it through, whether it be at the ministerial level or it be at the presidential level. So the technical knowledge is great, but we have to focus on leadership. The lack of leadership in our country is affecting every single aspect of our economy, including agriculture. So I'll stop there, brother. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Sekou. Two last comments. The traditional way of producing rice should be meeting. Yeah, there's no question about that, but at what cost?
We should improve it.
Yeah, we should improve it. Vandela Patrick's. Your panel is powerful. Mr. Ambulah Mamey, the American University trained development practitioner, possesses an amazing expertise to this debate. I don't know why the government of Liberia can't get this kind of individual to beat. Oh man, Vandela to beat since somebody here. Nobody get a baseball bat to beat senses. When President JFK said, ask now what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, I believe the government of America had prepared everything that America needed to invest in their country. Therefore, when you are discussing these issues of rice production, you need to invite the government officials who are responsible for these issues. They have the resources. However, our leaders are so wicked towards their own people. Yeah, my brother, we're doing our party. We'll talk it, and then we invite people, and we hope we can all participate. Okay, let's conclude it. I want to thank you all very, very much. But let me Mr. Mamey, any last thing you want to throw out there?
What I want to say is talking about leadership. I think this is the opportunity that President Weah should seize. What we know is people always say, do not let any crisis to go without you benefiting, right? This is the moment he should seize and begin to address Liberia rice problem. This crisis is an opportunity to solve our rice problem. Everybody in the country complaining because of no rice. They acknowledge that this is as a result of international crisis in Ukraine that have affected the price of rice and government subsidy. Even though we know that there are factors of incompetence at the Ministry of Commerce that led to this, but broadly, to be honest, we know the price of rice is influenced externally. This is the moment. If our president we are, I would tell Liberians that we all have seen how relying on rice from outside is affecting us. Going forward, maybe for the next quarter, and unfortunately for us, he will not be president again, but no president can pick up from there, whatever the case is. So going forward, if the amount of money we're spending on subsidizing rice input, we will spend that money, or we'll spend 60% of that money on subsidizing rice production. As a result of that, expect to see $1 increase in the price of rice beginning December. And this $1 increase in the price of rice beginning December is intended to address our rice problem as early as March, to reduce our input, to reduce our reliance on rice. Invest that money into some of the things we are outlined here and be able to increase production, and be able to improve productivity and increase production of rice. You should not allow the movement to slack. Everybody in crisis, tell them we are in this crisis because of price issue. The way to address it is not to continue to do it the old way. The old way is the government subsidizing the importation. This time, because everybody is complaining, my government has decided to spend 70% of what I have been spending on subsidizing input. I will spend 70% on subsidizing production. The remaining 30% will subsidize the input. But what that means is the price of rice will increase for the next 6 months or the next 1 year by certain dollar. That is the kind of leadership we need. And to do that, the president needs to have people who understand, that, to be honest, there are a lot of people in Liberia who understand these things. To have these people come around the table, no press, no journalists, sit down together for 2-3 weeks, analyze and design a pathway, and you spend no resources to addressing those problems. If you can leave from the presidency with that legacy in 2023 of the president who set the strong foundation for rice production and shifted away from subsidizing importation to subsidizing production, he can go with that legacy. Liberia will appreciate him for that. He should not let the moment to pass. Let him do it, and do it now.
Thank you. You heard Mr. Mamey, President Weah. since you've been a barroom medicine, you can become hunger medicine by doing the things that we have outlined today. We beg you, Akberase, Abatemo, please do something and leave that legacy. I'm quoting from Mr. Mamey. Dr. Paye.
Yeah. So my closing statement would just be adding to what Ambulah have already said. So, and in addition to what he just said, when you are implementing this thing, there should be goal that you want to achieve. There should be measurable outcomes. Go right now, do a survey, get a clear understanding of how much rice Liberia is producing. How much we already know how much we are importing, and we already know how much we are producing. Let's get a clear goal. We are now producing 25% of the rice that we eat in Liberia. By the end of 2023, we want to be producing 30% of the rice that we are, eating in Liberia. So we want to improve local production by 5%, by 10%, by 20%, by XYZ year. So you have those measurable goals. So when you are implementing government policies, when you are subsidizing production, when you are putting in government resources into this program, you should be able to go and measure and see if you are making progress from where you started, where you are now. Then you can say we are making progress. But if there's no way to account for whatever resources that will be pumped in whatever program, if they are going to follow these advices that we are giving here, Liberia is still not going to make progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paye. Thank you, Ambulah, for coming. And I agree with the two of you. Want to thank everyone who participated in this show. And from what I understand, President Weah can feel hurt when people criticize him. This is not criticism. We're doing our best to say, do this for us, do this for Liberia. You could possibly go down as one of those because we continue to have the repeated rice issue because we are, according to Dr. Paye, we are growing just 25% and importing 75%. And if you look at our budget, we can sustain that because we have other things to buy, not rice alone. So if we're spending this amount of money on importing rice, we are there is always an alternative that we are foregoing to buy rice, and this is not sustainable. So you can be that guy who changed the history of our country forever by making us not to be dependent on imported rice, but we can grow rice ourselves and eat it. And doing that meaning, for example, the money you take to give to the people to say, I'm giving you this money so you can import rice, you can give that money or some of that money to farmers to help them produce or grow rice. That way, we can all eat rice and feel like we have eaten something. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. I want to thank our viewers. Always keep it here on Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Let me go back to Mamey, who's going to for 59 seconds and see what he got.
I just, when the brother talk about setting goals and meeting them and measuring them, when the CDC took over, the CDC promised that by now it will have produced 360,000 metric tons of rice. To date, since 2018, the CDC have added only 13,000 metric tons of rice. The current statistics is from FAO. They took the rice from 270 metric tons, from 257 metric tons to 270 metric tons. That is adding only 13 metric tons of rice since CDC took over. That is an embarrassment for a government that promised to use agriculture as a bedrock for development. President Weah, you still have the opportunity, and this is the moment to take the subsidies from importing rice and place it to producing rice. Thank you.
And you agree with me, this is why Focus on Liberia is the best since 1847. Wow. With all that, we want to close with our song that says, we are all Liberians. Whether you believe we should eat pounded yam, cassava, rice, or fufu, we are all Liberians, and it is incumbent upon all of us to do our best to make our country self-sufficient in rice production so that we can eat rice and there's plenty of rice to go around. Have a good night. We are all Liberians. God bless you.
We are Labira. Labira is our home.